When you think about AI, what comes to mind? Probably gleaming servers, right? Lines of code scrolling down a screen. And yeah, sure, that's part of it. But it's not the whole story, not by a long shot. The real story of AI? Well, it didn't start with a silicon chip. It started with an idea.
So, okay, if it didn't just pop into existence in a computer lab, where did it come from? I mean, what are the secret ingredients that were bubbling away for centuries to create this technology that's, well, it's changing everything? All right, let's get into it.
And here's the thing, the very first ingredient, and this is the one that it gets me every time, it predates the idea of a computer by over 2,000 years. Seriously. To find the actual DNA of AI, we've got to go way, way back, all the way to ancient Greece.
Yeah, you heard that right. Our first ingredient is philosophy. I mean, long before anyone could even imagine building an intelligent machine, you had these philosophers basically drawing up the architectural blueprints. They were asking these massive fundamental questions that, turns out, would go on to define the whole field of AI. And what's just so wild is how modern these questions sound, right? You got thinkers like Aristotle creating these systems of logic, these syllogisms, which were, let's be honest, the world's very first algorithms for reasoning. They were debating if the mind was just physical stuff or some kind of magic. They were trying to figure out how we turn what we know into what we actually do. And these weren't just idle thoughts. No, this was the absolute bedrock. This really gets to the heart of the problem they faced. See, for most of human history, people thought of the mind as something, I don't know, spiritual, ethereal, totally separate from the physical body. But, and this is the crucial part, for AI to even be a possibility, you have to believe the other side. You have to believe that the mind is a physical system, that it's a machine, something you can study, you can understand, and maybe, just maybe, you can copy. And then this quote comes along in the 1600s from Thomas Hobbes, and it was a total game changer. Reasoning is but reckoning. The idea that thinking was just computation, like adding and subtracting ideas. That was the critical leap. All of a sudden, thinking wasn't magic. It was math. And just like that, you have a bridge from the world of philosophy straight to the world of machines.
Okay, so you've got the blueprint, but a blueprint alone isn't going to build a house, right? You need tools. So let's talk about the next set of ingredients, how these huge abstract ideas from philosophy were finally given the real practical tools they needed. And those tools came from, you guessed it, mathematics and economics.
Right, so mathematics basically gave these ideas a language they could speak. Formal logic, that took Aristotle's old school reasoning and turned it into a super precise notation, something a machine could actually work with. Then you had geniuses like Alan Turing figuring out the absolute limits of what was even possible for a machine to compute. He was literally drawing the map for the whole AI playground. And this is huge. Probability gave us a way to handle the real world, which is messy and uncertain and not at all black and white.
But just being able to process information, is that enough? No. You need a purpose, a goal. And that's where, weirdly enough, economics comes into the picture. It adds this super important ingredient called utility theory. Now, that's just a fancy way of saying you have a system that doesn't just think, it makes choices to get the best possible result. So, boom, suddenly AI has a goal. It's not just about reasoning anymore, it's about reasoning towards something. And when you mix those two things together, you get this really elegant framework that's basically the logic engine inside so much of today's AI. Step 1, use math to figure out the odds. Step 2, economics gives you a target to aim for. And step 3, decision theory helps you pick the best way to get there. It's just a beautiful combination of ideas. Okay, so quick recap. We've got the why from philosophy, and we've got the how from math. But what should an intelligent machine actually look like? What's the model? Well, for that, the early AI pioneers looked at the most complex, most successful intelligent system we know of, the human brain. Their goal? To reverse engineer us. And the easiest way to think about this is the classic hardware versus software analogy. You've got neuroscience, which was all about digging into the brain's hardware, the physical wetware, right? The neurons, the synapses, the actual wiring. And then, at the very same time, you had psychology and cognitive science studying our mental software, looking at how we think, how we learn, how we remember things, and how we solve problems. And we're not talking about some vague inspiration here. This was often a direct copy-paste job.
I mean, the whole idea of an artificial neural network, it's literally an attempt to mimic the structure of our brain. Researchers borrowed everything from the way our own neurons fire off signals to how different parts of the brain handle specific jobs like vision or language. It was like the ultimate apprenticeship, learning from the master craftsman, biology. All right, blueprint? Check. Toolkit? Check. Biological model? Check. We're almost there. Now we need the final set of ingredients, the ones from modern engineering and science that finally took AI off the drawing board and plugged it into the real world. Let's put it simply, AI is a power-hungry beast. For decades, all these brilliant ideas were just sitting there, stuck in neutral, because the technology simply didn't exist. It was modern computer engineering that finally unleashed that beast, giving us hardware that could crunch the billions of calculations per second that these massive models need. And here's my favorite fun fact of this whole story. The hardware that kicked off the deep learning explosion, it didn't come from some top-secret government research lab. Nope. It came from video games. Seriously, graphics processing units, or GPUs, were designed to render these beautiful, hyper-realistic 3D worlds for gamers. And it just so happened, by complete chance, that their knack for doing thousands of simple calculations all at the same time was the perfect fuel for hungry neural networks. And you can see how things just started to click into place really fast, right around the middle of the 20th century. Computers gave AI the raw muscle. A field called control theory, which is all about how systems use feedback to stay stable, gave AI a way to actually interact with and adapt to the world. And then linguistics showed up to help crack our most complicated invention of all, language. And this is so important. Think about it. Every single time you ask your smart assistant a question or use an app to translate something, you're looking at the direct results of linguistics being applied to AI. The whole field, we call it natural language processing or NLP, is built completely on the foundation of understanding the rules, the structure, and the meaning packed into human language. So when you take a step back and look at the whole thing, the picture becomes crystal clear. AI isn't the product of one single field. It's not one person's invention. It's this incredible mashup, a recipe that's been slowly simmering for centuries, with each ingredient adding its own unique and totally essential flavor. And this just shows you that final blend perfectly. Philosophy asked the question, what even is intelligence? Math gave it a language, neuroscience gave us the biological blueprint, and engineering built the engine to make it all go. I mean, if you try to pull out any one of those pieces, the whole thing we call AI today, it just falls apart. Which, of course, leaves us with one last big question. If today's AI is a fusion of all these amazing fields, what's next? What's going to be the next unexpected ingredient we add to this recipe? Is it going to be ethics, sociology, maybe even art? The truth is, the recipe is still being written. And what comes in the next chapter, well, that's anyone's guess.